here to discuss all things NRL and anything sports related. Please give a warm Aussie g'day to the footy fanatic and America's own Corey Jackson in Outside the Sheds.
Greetings and salutations and welcome back to Outside the Sheds. Shedheads, I hope you're feeling this in the air. I don't know, there's a smell. It's, you know what it might be? It might be the Caxton Street. I'm not really sure, but after I just watched a commercial, I don't know, about 12 hours ago, about Magic Round being a week away. Listen, if you haven't seen this yet, you have to tune in. It's about and it's a 5-minute commercial too. It's a mini series of a commercial, pretty much. I don't know if they need to break it into two different parts or what, but I laughed for about 4 minutes straight. It was that good. But it also gets me ready for Magic Round. But unfortunately, we have to get through one more round before we can go up to Brisbane and make Vegas the rock and roll capital of Australia that we know that it is. Now I digress as I come back to Earth. We still have things to do and things to talk about, and that is catching up with round 9, finishing round 10, and then we go to Magic Round. But first, let's talk about your Shedda just for a second. Let's just talk. I know, like I said, I have fans out there who like a little self-gloss, so we're going to start with a little self-gloss. We go 6 for 8 for the week, which we love. 47 to 70 so far for 2026. That puts us at 67%. 67%. That's better than some of my math classes that I had back in the day when I was a wee little nerd, as they would say. But I'm proud of that. We really have rebounded since 2025. And if you know anything about 2025, living where I live or living in the divided states, you know that we want to forget about that as much as possible. So we're going to take those numbers from 2025 and just flush them down the old commode. They didn't exist. How about that? We'll just act like they didn't exist. There's files that in this country that we talk about occasionally that some people don't think exist too. So we'll put them with those. How about that? We'll put them with those. Now, let's go and talk about round 9. We're really jazzed about that because it was a good round. It really, really was. I enjoyed it from top to bottom. I actually had a game in this round that I think was maybe one of the greatest games of footy I've watched that just had everything in it. And we're going to talk about that in the deep dive. But to get there first, we need to go forward, and we have to start at the beginning, and that beginning phase was Cowboys and the Doggies. And not much of a game for one side because Cowboys 28, Bulldogs 12, Cows making it 6-7, and putting the Bulldogs back into disarray, which I think, unfortunately, for the boys in Belmore, they're getting used to. Yes, this Canterbury Bulldogs squad, the only team that stopped the Penrith revenge tour, fall again. And I know that there's some people that have put on the blue and white jersey that just defend them till the end. I know about people like that, but we won't go there. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Well, I do know what's going on, but I don't know if they have the testicular fortitude to make the calls to change the trajectory that the Bulldogs are on right now. But we won't talk about the Bulldogs. Let's talk about positive. Toddy Payton continues to roll, 6-7. Drinkwater, a double. But for some reason, some greater powers that be think that the Cows are going to be so much better with a new fullback next season. And I think we all know that that's heading towards Jackson Purdue being in the number 1. But why are you tampering with a guy that is everything? He is the one who starts all the offense for the Cows. And I'm not taking anything away from Dearden, and I love Jake Clifford. But when this team really fires, it's Drinky who's pushing them forward and just setting things up. So, I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't work for any of these clubs. Maybe they think that they know more than we do, but I'm not the only pundit that said I don't know what they're thinking about moving on from Drinky because he's playing incredible footy. But that's next season. Right now, they're on a mission, and they're looking good right now. They're looking good. I know there's also a back and forth if they should get Toddy Payton signed up for the long term because right now he is a lame duck coach for the Cowboys. I think that'll come to pass if they just keep on that trajectory where they're at right now. But big victory for the Cows coming down to Sydney and getting the job done. Dolphins 28, Storm 10. The Storm woes continue, going up 10-0 in the game. The Storm then concede 28 in a row. And, you know, I hate to say this, but I'm almost starting to get used to this. This Melbourne Storm thing that's going on, they're starting to allow teams back into games, which is unheard of. But now maybe we're starting to find out as we pull up the hood and look underneath and look into the engine what might be going on with the Melbourne Storm. And that is with bellyache being diagnosed with a neurological disease, a deteriorating neurological disease. And that is just horrible news. I make fun of bellyache all the time. I think that he is one of the funniest guys to watch up in the coaching box. I think if you watch Craig Bellamy in the coaching box, you would be an idiot to get into coaching. But that's really sad, you know. And I think you see the lasting impression he has on some of his players when you see the likes of Cameron Smith and Munster and Billy Slater and Cooper Cronk, when they try to talk about this man who is so important for a lot of their careers, if not all of their careers, the lasting effect he has. They get choked up just talking about it. You know, watching Billy Slater on the Sunday Footy Show, he was bracing for it. And sometimes I think the worst thing you can do is brace for talking about a very vulnerable situation, because I think your mind just allows you to open up even more, even though you say you're not going to, you're just going to get through it. But yeah, and maybe that is the thing that we didn't know, why this team just has looked off. Maybe this has been a known point down in Melbourne that we are just now getting privy to. But it makes sense now. It makes sense. I do think this is going to, it didn't really have that effect against the Dolphins, but I do unfortunately think the Tigers are going to be the brunt of some of this coming weekend. I think that we're going to see, there's some big guys coming back into that Melbourne Storm side coming into this week. So be looking for a big rebound there. But yeah, it is, there's only been 4 teams since 1908 that have ever made the finals that have lost 7 in a row. So to say this is uncharted territory to an extent, I guess it's not fully uncharted because there's 4 teams that have done it. But I think that it is going to take a meteoric situation, a meteor coming from the stars to make the Melbourne Storm get into the finals this year. But if there's any club that you can say I can see them doing it, there's 2 to me. It's Penrith and it's the Melbourne Storm. And maybe how the Brisbane Broncos have played the last couple of seasons, maybe them. But for the Finns, you know, the Dolphins, just a club that just keeps coming back and forth. It was good to see lock, stock, and box stock and 2 smoking barrels, however you want to say it. Lock, box, stock, and 2 smoking barrels. I think I said it right that time. Anyway, Jack Boxstock was back, getting 2 tries, looking like he never left the game. So it was good to see Jack Boxstock back. Yeah, say that 12 times in a row. And then Herbie Farnworth, the divine mustache, is running. I think he ran for 241 running meters in the game. Just continues, his legacy. The sexiest man in the game, continue to run nonstop. So, good victory for the Dolphins. Again, the Storm, 7 in a row. Never thought we would say that. But it's going to be interesting. Like I said, this Tigers match is going to be a fun one kicking off Sunday footy. Raiders 28, Titans 12. The Raiders going to the Gold Coast. I know Matty Johns doesn't want to hear this. And get a big victory. Big victory. Sasagi getting a double. I said this time and time again, I feel the Raiders they're going to get into the finals. They've just got to go through this rough patch right now that they're going through right now. But I think they're going to get there. I think they're going to be fine. big again. I think you could say this every week, week in and week out in the NRL. Big game this week. Big game this week. And it is for some of these clubs that are just trying to get back into the 8, who've had a not great start to 2026 or the season. I think they're one of the teams that will get this together. Huge match against Penrith, though. Huge match. Because if they can get over the top of Penrith again, and unfortunately for them it's not in Mudgee, but if they can get back over the top of Penrith this weekend, I think it could be downhill sledding for them for a little bit for the confidence factor. But they got to get there first. Titans again, trying, not giving up, but just not getting the chocolates yet. And then Kyle Weeks, back to the green machine. This guy, I think there's one player, maybe a couple in this league that could wear a cape and could pull it off running down the field. Kyle Weeks is that guy for me. Some people say he's already got a cape with those flowing locks halfway down his back, but he's just special. And in every game, he does something that makes you just shake your head. Right now, I think it's him, and I think it's Latrell Mitchell or the guys that you're just like, wow, they're playing in a different universe right now. But big victory for the Raiders, and the Titans just not giving up, but just not getting where they need to be right now. Warriors 36, Eels 14. Waz coming to the Sydney, getting a victory. To me, this all comes from very smart, not messing with something that's not broken. When you hear that certain players can get back to the side, being Metcalf, and the decision coming down that we're going to stay with Tanner Boyd, we're going to stay with Chanel Harris-Tavita, and when you watch that cutout ball that Chanel Harris-Tavita threw for that try, he's getting more and more confidence as time comes along with this team, and I think you've got to make that play because there was rumblings that Todd Payton was looking at maybe bringing Chanel Harris-Tavita up to North Queensland since he's played for him before. But I just, Chanel Harris-Tavita has added so much to his game with his tackling, with the way that he takes on the line. I really think if you leave him in there, I know this isn't good news for Metcalf, but I think these two guys will continue to gel and just get better and better and better week in and week out. They're a perfect foil for each other, too. But they are playing some incredible footy right now. They just look good. They just look like it's coming to them. It looks like the game never moves too fast for the Waz right now. I know that RTS injured his shoulder now, and he's going to be out for a couple of weeks now at least. But, man, the Waz just keep coming, and they just look more and more and more comfortable being in that top 4, and I think they're not going anywhere. Roosters 38, Broncos 24, up 30. How often you hear that? Up 30 for the Chookies. And then Pompey crumbles because they let the Bronx right back into that game. And I know that a lot of people for the Tricolors are a little nervous because the Brisbane Broncos right now are considered the cardiac kids in the competition. There's not a lead that they don't think they can come back over the top of. And they were right there. They were right there coming until a stupid play by Katoni Staggs. And that I've said time and time again, I think that Staggs is one of my favorite players. He just is a brutal dude. He's there for the contact. He's right there to run over you. He's that guy that would put a smile on his face if he got to leave cleat marks on your chest running over you, right? But the karate chop forearm that he did on a tackle just doesn't need to be in the game. We know guys give each other the business, but it was just dirty, and he's getting 2 weeks for that. I don't think it's going to affect his origin selection, but it just doesn't need to happen, and it flipped everything because it allowed the Chooks to slow everything down and to come back over the top and put the Broncos away. But I don't know if that stays the case. If Katoni Staggs doesn't do that move, all the momentum was behind the Broncos in that game. So, that's why you got to keep your head. And, unfortunately for Broncos fans, you can't say anything because Stags has done so much for this team during this time period. Since, I would say the final, he's just that dude. He's been that guy for a while for that team. He's the poster child for whenever the rivalry for Brisbane happens against them and the Dolphins, when he let them know whose house it was. So, sometimes these players that play on the edge, we've talked the last couple of weeks about Latrell. Stags, to me, has that kind of vibe. But wow, that's 5 in a row for the Tricolors. Chucky's looking good. I think they're very, very happy to get out of Dodge with that victory because that was a little in jeopardy there. And Marky Mark going down could be something we have to talk about going down the track because that guy has just been something special since he's come across to league from Union. But Chooks get that big victory. Reese Walsh definitely showed that he's been out for a little while, but the game has not dropped off at all. So big victory for the Chooks. Broncos have nothing to hang their head about. I guess maybe somehow getting behind by 30 points might be the only thing they could complain about. But they still did that cardiac stuff at the end and almost came back. Knights 42. Rabbitohs 38. The return of Kalen Ponga. The return of Brandon Best. To me, the most exciting game. I said there was a game that was easily, to me, the most exciting game I've seen for a very, very long time, if not ever. I remember a game, you guys might have to help me out, Shedheads. I think that it was 2012 when the Tigers went down and got down big to the Waz in New Zealand and came all the way back. That was the other game I was thinking about for just nonstop action that stays in my head of, wow, that was something special that I watched. But that game had it all. That game was it was special. You had players coming back. Listen, I'm not going any farther right now because I'm doing a deep dive about this game because it really needs to be broken down because I think it was that special. But Knights getting a huge, hard-fought victory. This is a type of win that could propel them 4 or 5 weeks down the track after the momentum they pick up from winning this game. Because it took everything, every piece of fiber they had in their body to get that victory, and they got it done. And the cool thing for the Rabbitohs, they besides getting down early, they can't hold their heads down either because they got in the sheds with old Clint Eastwood, and they came back and played a monster game. So we're going to talk about this one here in a second. Sharks 52, Tigers 10. Tigers start strong, and then Adam Dewey injures that shoulder, and they just were never the same after that. They were never the same after that. And I think people have said time and time again, how important is Adam Dewey to the West Tigers? I think we found out. And I've always known, but it was shown in spades how important that guy is to the West Tigers because they were not the same club after that. They just weren't. That's too many pieces. Appy gone, then all of a sudden Bulla gone, and then, you lose Adam Dewey like that. There's a lot, and Benji keeps talking and preaching resilience for a club. But when you have a very young club like that, you can't lose cornerstones, that many of them, and then expect them just to pick up and go. That's why I think it's going to be very, very tough for the Tigers playing the Storm, because the Storm are getting a bunch of guys back, and the Tigers are not reloading. That's going to be a tough match, and it's going to be a very, very tough match for the Tigers this coming round. But let's talk on the positives, and that is the Cronulla Sharks, a team that needed a victory. The other thing, on the other side of this coin, I talk about the Tigers. You watched a team that had a lot of frustration that took it out on a club because they did. Kale Iro, this guy, he is something special. I think he has the game to play Origin. He's a physical, big body, and he showed it again, taking, like I said, the Tigers to the sword. But that was just that game. Nico Hines ran well in that match. There was a lot of frustration pent up that was released Let me put it this way. Quint's boat is sinking because that shark is so big right there during that game. It was one-way traffic. It really was. And you watched a young Tigers team. This is the first time we saw a Tigers team that looked like they had no answers of what to do. And that's even with Luai back. People ask, do you think a lot of that outcome was because of the Luai signing and the hangover from that and the thought that their captain's going to be leaving to play for PNG in 2028? I don't feel that way at all. I just think that it was a tsunami. And no matter how strong you are, I don't care what type of board you're riding, you're not riding out a tsunami like that. And that's what the Tigers ran into. But big victory for the Sharks. Up Cronulla. That gets them going. But I think it's only 1 week of them being able to take a deep breath because they're going to be running into a force of nature themselves again. Another possible tsunami coming the other direction. They've got South Sydney coming up. Panthers 18, Seagulls 16. This was the match, Shedheads. This was the match. First off, he had the big buzz of Joey Walsh coming into the side. That lived up to what we thought. And he kind of had me flash back to Nathan Cleary when he made his debut for the Panthers against the Melbourne Storm. A lot of buzz. It was a lot of talk going into it. What's this guy? We're pulling the curtain back so you can see this future guy that could be one of the greats possibly. He's done everything. He's got all the game, blah, 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 blah. And Joey Walsh produced. I'm saying that no-look pass he threw for a try assist was pretty special. He showed that he's got a little, I heard he came in, rocking some bling, double earrings in each ear. They say that's the thing about these guys. Cleary the same way. They just, no moment is too big for them. And Walsh showed that, and him coming into the Sheds, it looked like he was playing with house money, and he knew what the deck was, and the dealer didn't even know, if you know what I mean. So that was big. But to me, what really stood out was how well Kieran Foran has got the Manly Seagulls mentality. And that is huge. That is everything. That is what Anthony Seibold never could do for Manly. And I said this, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, that, some clubs just preach, we need a Manly man in there. We need, a Broncos man in there. Guys who just get the culture, get what it means to put that jersey on. And I gotta say, I don't know if in any sport that I've watched where guys look so, well, there might be another team right now, and that might be the Newcastle Knights under Justin Holbrook, but they just seem happy. They just seem happy. See, for Newcastle, they've had all off season under Justin Holbrook to change that mentality, for Holbrook to take the guys down into the mines, to reprogram their train of thought, what it means to be a Knight, blah, blah, blah. Foz has not had that. He picked up a team, or was handed a team, that was beaten down. Jake Trbojevic looked like a shell of the player that he was, with his big headgear on, his great Gadzoo headpiece. He looked like the shell of the dude. People were talking about Jakey retiring. That's how bad it was going. Now let's not talk about running it back another year. Is it time for Jake to retire? And just in a matter of weeks, I don't, like I said, okay, I remember Jake smiling and laughing that much when Matty Johns did that punking of Tom Trbojevic when he was the guy in the golf cart and popped up in the boys' truck when they were coming back. That was maybe the last time I saw Jake with that big of a smile on his face, right? He was in on the prank then. And when you listen to him and the guys, him and Garrick were on 360, and they just couldn't stop raving about how much Foz has changed the mentality inside that locker room, and they believe, and they believe, and they believe, and they believe. And I just don't remember seeing a team that was that beaten down in just a matter of weeks be a totally different club. Like, some people were saying Manly was going to get the wooden spoon. Now people are saying, can they finish top 4? And after the performance they did against the Panthers, and let's put it this way, what kept Manly from winning that game over Penrith wasn't anything to do with Penrith. It did, yes, timeout, I'm not saying that. Because Nathan Cleary's kicking game and the way the Panthers can just drag you out into deep waters was the reason that happened. But with Cogger getting sent to the box for 10 minutes, being sent off, Manly had the chance to win that game. And they just did not know how to do it. They just couldn't get over the top. And that's why Penrith is Penrith. That's why they can win these games like that. That's why all these guys coming to market are going to be just novelty. Can they get them pried out of Penrith and signed other places? Because when a lot of teams would have just crumbled, Penrith knew exactly what to do. And Manly just could not put it together how to get that try in that time period. And Penrith just did Penrith things. But this is perfect for Foz. Because you need, as a coach, when you're trying to show your team that they belong, you need moments to coach. And yeah, he didn't want to lose that game. We know that. But he now knows what he can attack to get Manly even another level up on the charts. Yeah, that was a huge game. That whole day, yeah, the Sharks and the Tigers, that was not the greatest games to watch. But we got 2 crackers in there with that Knights Rabbitohs and that Panthers Eagles game, because it just showed you a lot about teams and heart and not giving up. But yeah, the Panthers, and you could see the hugs for the Penrith boys because they knew they got out of town with a hard-fought victory. And those were going to be one of those games where they're like, whew, yeah, we're not going to have to see those boys for a little bit, but we're going to have to watch out for them. So great game for both teams. They both had to dig down deep. Yes, Manly didn't get the chocolates, but you got to feel good for them if you're a Seagulls fan. Now, Shedheads, I know some of you come from that old school where you like a good 8-6 game, guys just looking dirty. Like it was like watching 300 on the footy field, right? I know some of you are like that, and that's cool. I got no problem with that whatsoever. I respect it too. It's good to watch a good hard-hitting game. But for me, give me that Newcastle Rabbitohs match. Because that game was just special. And the cool thing about it was I didn't have a dog in the fight. I just got to sit there at the 50 with a cold beverage. Okay, I wasn't really there. All right, Shedheads. I know a lot of you are going to freak out that I was in country. All right, I wasn't there physically. But I had that Switzerland feel. I had a good timepiece on my watch, straight Switzerland. I had a good piece of chocolate. And I just got to sit back and take it all in. And it was everything that you need in a game. You had big names. You had stars returning from injury. You had a rabid home crowd. Because, when Newcastle's going well, or when Newcastle fans feel it, the belief is there, they're a different... the chance of Newcastle during that match just boomed through the telly, right? Incredible tries. You had big hits. Listen, living over here in the divided states, if you had one game that I could put in a time capsule that I've watched recently, where I could sit, open that thing up, pop in the old DVD player, hit play and say, this is why you need to love the game that I love and what it brings to the table, it's that game right there. Because it had all of that stuff. It was excitement all the way through. Yeah, you had some lackadaisical defense at certain points, but some of that was you just had gun players coming over the top. It was something that I'm not going to forget for a while. But there's some crazy numbers that came out of this too. You had 14 total tries, 11 of 14 conversions made, 2,908 combined running meters, 14 line breaks, 51 tackle breaks. it just had all those type of offensive numbers where you're like, whew, give me some of that, right? But then there was the freakish. And Shedheads, give me the freakish every day of the week. Give me that moment where I'm like, whoa. And that moment to me, I've still watched over 20 times in replays. And I think if you know the game, you watch it, you know what I'm getting ready to talk about. And that is the Latrell Mitchell try in the 70th minute. That dude, the last time I saw somebody do that, it was Godzilla walking through downtown Tokyo. Taking fighter jets, shooting at him, the military shooting bazookas, tanks shooting from the ground, and guess who keeps coming? The big kaiju himself, Godzilla. And that was what Latrell Mitchell was. Because he's coming down, he takes the pass from what am I trying to say? The Alex Johnson, thank you very much. He takes it from Alex Johnson, and he sees the try line in front of him. But then here comes that bazooka, that tank, that freaking F-16 fighter missile, all in one package, a blistering flying Kalen Ponga. And Ponga hits him with everything he's got. Now, Shed, as I told you at the beginning of the season, I got to give a little love to Kalen Ponga, right? We gave each other 5 in Vegas, and it was cool. And standing toe-to-toe, I'm not a small guy, Shedheads, at all. You're Shedadamus. Mrs. Shedadamus is very, very happy to have this Adonis in her life, all right? I'm not a small cat. Or guy, all right? I don't know why I just call myself a cat. Anyway, so I saw Kalen, and he's a solid dude. Solid, right? And he hits Latrell Mitchell. Hits him. Like, there's not many guys he's not driving into touch with that hit that he lays on him. And Latrell Mitchell, like Godzilla, ricocheted him off, put his head down, and tapped that ball down. It was, and he tightrope walked it too, right? Like, to be that size of force, I don't even go, Godzilla couldn't have done that tightrope walk, all right? I'm a big fan of Godzilla. I love a big G. But I don't know if he's got that type of dexterity. Latrell does. And Latrell walked that tightrope line and put that ball down. It was something special. And like I said, I've watched that thing like 20 times. And I'm just like, dude, Latrell. And I think why I get so excited about that is because we did the deep dive of Latrell a few weeks ago. And I just say you get that monster, that werewolf that sometimes just comes out and he's ragdolling dudes. And he does plays and you're like, dude, that guy's lost his head. And then you get these moments. And we've got more of these moments like we just had with that try where he freaking took the best of Kalen Ponga and still put it down. We're getting more of that stuff than we are getting the brain explosions that he's had before in the past. That was some special stuff. And like I said, time capsule stuff. They're going to be showing that try at the end of the season at the Dally-M Awards. They're going to be showing that through the rest of the season because Latrell is on a mission. He's feeling good. And just think about this. Everyone forgets David Fafita isn't even playing right now. When this guy gets back, I know they lost Jack Whiten with the broken forearm. But South Sydney, if you're a fan, you gotta, man. David Lindsay, I know, is very, very happy right now. All right, Big DL is very, very happy. But that was a huge play. And I'll say this right now: both of these clubs coming out of this game had to feel great about it. Yes, South Sydney did not get the victory, but to be down as much as they were on the road. And to talk, and for old Clint Eastwood to have his talk at halftime, maybe it was just a few mumbles. We don't know what he said. But to come out with that type of fire and that type of fury in the soul, to get back into it, and then the game ends with Latrell almost getting that try, except the entire town of Newcastle tackled him so he couldn't get the ball down. They've got to feel good. But then on the other side of the coin, if you're a Knights fan, this is the most excitement I've felt probably in Newcastle since what did they win? 7 in a row a few years ago when they did when it looked like Adam O'Brien was getting ready to get fired, and they fired him off these victories, even without KP there, and they made it to the final, to the finals, not to the final, but to the finals. That was the last time I saw this type of excitement. But it maybe isn't even as much as what we've got right now, because Dylan Brown has come up there and has lived up to what a lot of people didn't think that he was going to be able to live up to. He's played incredible footy. This team feels like they are special. This team feels that they can do some things this year. If they can stay healthy and they can keep KP, Dylan Brown, Bradman Best, Gagai, the boys, Fletcher and Fletcher Incorporated, if they can keep these guys healthy, and Fletcher Sharp's going to continue to get more and more healthy because he's been playing with that nagging knee injury, it could be a special year for Newcastle. I don't have them winning everything, but I think they could get some scalps before it's all said and done and really finish the season strong. But I'll tell you this right now. I cannot wait till round 19 to watch this rematch come to Accor Stadium. That is going to be something. Trust me, I'm going to be there. Did I say that I was going to be on the 50 with my Swiss watch and my Swiss chocolate? I'm going to be there. I'm going to be watching that thing, and I can't wait for it. Now, on Outside the Shedheads, you know me. I love an uplifting story. I love a comeback. I love an underdog piece. I love something that you can get behind where you watch sheer will. When you watch somebody, let's put it this way. 80% of the people would tap and say, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't go forward. I'm over. I'm ready to make that next step in my life because I cannot go through the pain, all of this to get where I need to be. But then there's those few. There's those few that will go to the depths of hell through pain, through misery, through uncertainty. And they just need that one little piece, that one little glimmer of light, that little bit they can see through that tunnel of darkness that just keeps them driving, keeps them going. And we got that this week. We got it. We got it on the field. And it was just special. And that story is the Cody Ramsey story. And it's crazy because I don't know why. Maybe, I was talking to Mrs. Shedadamus. Maybe it's because Cody Ramsey reminds me a little bit of the Brad Pitt character from Snatch. Except I can understand him a little bit more than the Brad Pitt character from Snatch, right? He just has that wiry, gypsy vibe about him. And I remember I watched his first match with the Dragons. It was round 18, I think. Round 18, 2020, against the Raiders. And he scored on the first touch of the ball that he had. He scored a try. And they got shellacked that game. They got beat down. It was like 30-something to 8. And Cody Ramsey had both tries for the Dragons that day. Both tries. And he just had this, like I said, almost that flair of, oh shucks, but also, just loving the game. The other thing that stands out for me with that game, when Cody Ramsey was there, was his mother. And the Dragons did not get a lot of calls that went their way. There was not a lot of stuff that went their way. They got blown out. And Cody Ramsey's mom's up there throwing double sparrows, throwing the bird in the crowd at the officiating crew, and just things going against her boy, right? They had a bunch of family and friends that were there. They were going nuts when he scored the tries. It was a rock star performance. And it's funny because they had a horrible game. The whole rest of the game was horrible, but the Ramsey army was they were just living that day, living the dream, right? And you remember that, and it just sticks in the back of my head watching that. And then in late 2022, this incredible story took a huge turn Because after 36 games, I think 15 tries for the Dragons, Cody Ramsey was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And Shedheads, I cannot even, I have stomach pain occasionally, right? I have to take things for it. Nothing like major, not prescription or anything like that. But there's nothing worse than stomach pain. And maybe having an upset stomach and bowel discomfort. And that's what this is. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible bowel disease. I was talking to Mrs. Shedadamus again. Look at her getting a bunch of drops this week. Mrs. Shedadamus. Mrs. Shedda. But you guys know she is a medical professional. And she was just talking to me about how horrible this disease is. How painful it can be. And listen, you don't have to listen to me. There's plenty of stuff out there right now with Cody Ramsey doing interviews where he talks about what he went through. But this disease took his entire colon and large intestine. Just try to take that in for a second right there. Losing your entire large intestine and colon. And if you don't think that destroys and does some crazy things to your body, you're crazy yourself. And he went through that. And his first surgeon said that his footy career was over. And to hear that at the age of 22 years old, 22 years of age, to hear that your dream is done, to hear that everything you've lived for is now going by the wayside, and not because of anything you've done. It's just your body. Your body's shutting down. Your body just not handling things the way normal bodies handle it. That is why, to me, this story of him being resurrected, the Phoenix to an extent, and just appearing after 1,337 days back on to the rugby league first grade field is awesome. And we're not talking New South Wales Cup. We're talking first grade. And it just was a freak occurrence, too, because if Marky Mark doesn't go down, Ramsey's just on the bench, right? But even to be on the bench, you're looking and going, dude, welcome back. You know, you may never touch the field, but you did everything you possibly could. You did that long 4K, run back to your dad's house on the highway, which could have killed you, you thought. But you did it, But to go through all of that and to just look for tiny moments that just kept you going. Saying, all right, okay, I'll get through that. All right, what's step 2? Okay, I'll get through that. What's step 3? To do that, but then to find yourself on the field and to play the game the way that you did. If you didn't shed a tear watching Cody Ramsey's interviews after the game, and if you get a chance, go back and look at the guys that were on the field that were doing those interviews, and everybody's almost tearing up, watching him tear up, talking about the journey, talking about his partner being there every step of the way with him, talking about how his family and his mom were there every step of the way. That's what this is about, Shedheads. That's what this is about. This is about young men putting their bodies through things that a lot of people can't even comprehend, but still getting back up and coming forward again. Getting back up, coming forward again. Getting back up, coming forward again. It's just a special, special story. It is something that if Cody Ramsey is not your favorite player, he definitely better be your number 2. Because what he's doing and the risks he's still putting his body through. And let's put it this way. The risk he's still putting his body through means he is in the lineup again to play, and he's probably going to be playing for a while because Marky Mark is out 6 to 8 weeks. So you just hope that this story continues that trajectory upward, that he gets through this, and that his body just gets stronger, and that he can handle the trials and tribulations that it comes being a first grade rugby league player. And to think that, he's not my brother, he's not my cousin, but I worry for the guy. And you just hope that this turns into a story where we kind of forget that he's going through this, because his play is so incredible and he just keeps getting back up, like I said, and going forward. But that to me, really, I don't think we have to go any farther for comeback player of the year. Just, if he doesn't play another game of footy, which he's going to, that's already the comeback player of the year for me. It just is. So there it is. There's that story. Do more research on it yourselves, Shedheads. Watch some of these interviews. Listen to some of the radio interviews he's done, because I couldn't do it justice with the time period that I had. But congratulations and welcome back to Cody Ramsey, and a big shout out to all of his family who've been there every step of the way for him. Now, as we go into the 40-20, Shedheads, we've got to go north, because the North Queensland Cowboys are about ready to put a new sheriff badge, because they got a new sheriff. That's right, I put a little drawl in my voice when I said that. Not that anybody from North Queensland sounds like that, so I don't know why I'm going with the deep southern drawl. New sheriff. I don't know why, because you don't sound like that. Townsville, I apologize, because none of you sound like that whatsoever. But with that being said, there is a new sheriff up in Townsville, and it is Jason Taumololo, because starting this week, Jason Taumololo is going to pass Jonathan Thurston for the most caps for the Cowboys, with 295 games with the club. And that is astounding to think about. 200 for a big guy like that to be at game 295. It's almost kind of fascinating too when you think about it, because you look at JT, and JT was one of the smallest guys in the competition, and for him to play 295 games for the club, and then you look at Taumololo is one of the biggest guys to play for the club. Yeah, kind of crazy. But Taumololo made his debut for the club round 24, 2010 against the Doggies. And the dude was only 17 years old. 17, and he was a man mountain. 17! Look at the pictures of Jason Taumololo back in 2010, and he was a monster then. A monster then, at 17. Like, can you imagine? He didn't just grow that way in a year. Can you imagine normal 16-year-olds trying to tackle him in the competitions underneath? How bad of a day that would have been for you? Yeah, exactly. He's been running over grown men for 16 years. It's unheard of. The punishment that these guys take, these big guys, running through the line, just taking carry after carry after carry to dish out what they have to. It's some pretty special stuff. And a lot of people lambasted Toddy Payton when he came in, because he's like, I'm cutting back Jason's minutes because I want him to finish and go through his contract. And Todd Payton they took him and took him over the coals repeatedly for doing that to Taumololo. But now maybe Todd Payton was 100% right, because it's 2026 and Jason Taumololo is still pounding dudes. He's playing some of the best footy he's played for a while. And he is maybe one of the key, him and Drinky are two of the major factors why the Cows have won 6 of 7 and look strong and look like, that they could be playing some finals this year. So, so Todd Payton, you're not hearing anything bad from me right now for what you did for Jason Taumololo. And I know JT hasn't come out and said anything about it, but you hope he mentioned something, because I think if he still put the minutes he was doing before Todd Payton got there, I don't think he's there right now. I don't think he makes it to 295. But we're going to celebrate this, but then we're just a matter of weeks away from another gigantic celebration, and that's game 300 for Taumololo, which again is another unheard of, feat for a gentleman that plays this type of physical brand of footy. And the sky is the limit, because this team, I think, can do some special things, but we know it's rugby league, and we know that a lot of these teams are an injury or two away from us having to readjust where their season might go. But at this current moment, you got to say something right now. The Cows are looking good, and congratulations to the new sheriff with game 295, just a matter of days away. Now, Shedaz, we got to talk. I got it right now. This has been a roller coaster, this podcast, because we've got to go demoralization. We've got to go, unfortunately, back down the hill of this roller coaster, because after that demoralizing loss to the Sharks, bad news has finally really started to test the West Tigers, because the team got a double blow on that loss to the Shockies, and that is losing both Adam Dewey and Samuel Afanu to their loss in that game. Both of them went down, and unfortunately, these are going to be some extended stints on the sideline. Dewey, it's looking like 6 to 8 weeks with that shoulder, and Finu is looking 12 weeks with that foot injury. Like, he couldn't put weight on it whatsoever at the end of the game. But on top of this, compounding with this, you've got Bulla that's 6 weeks out. I don't think he's expected back until round 15 for the Tigers. So, it's a brutal game. It is just the moment you start thinking you see light and you think that you've turned the corner, it comes back and humbles you and it tests you. And that's what the West Tigers are about ready to go through right now. Jerome Luai is going to have to take his game to another level because Appy's not back yet, too, because of his suspension. This game is going to tell a lot about the West Tigers when they go to play the Melbourne Storm. And I don't really know what the outcome's going to be. I really don't. But it'll be interesting. We know that. Because you've got two teams that are going to be desperate. The Melbourne Storm don't want to lose 8 in a row. You know they need that. They need to win one for Bellamy to get that weight off of this team's back if they're really going to make that big push to the finals. And then you've got the Tigers who have to show that they're more than just a few players. But that's not the case because these are cornerstones of the franchise right now that are out. So it's going to be an incredible game to watch and a perfect game for us to kick off Super Sunday in a matter of days. Now, there's some good news, though, because we've got to always finish the 40-20 with good news. There are some good news on the horizon, and that is signings. We've got some big news on some signings. First off, let's go to PNG because the Chiefs have signed player number 2, Alex Johnson. It's finally been pen to paper, 1-year deal to come play for his beloved Chiefs for Papua New Guinea. I think we all knew that was coming. We know that some stalling had happened after the Jerome Luai signing, but it is now done. He is now Chief number 2 after Luai. Huge signing. And really, I think, again, we're going to start just hearing week after week, there's going to be some big names that are going there. This is a special time for Papua New Guinea, and I think it's only going to get better for these guys. But that's a huge, huge signing. Congratulations to Alex Johnson. I know he really wanted to go and represent Papua New Guinea, and he's going to get that chance in 2028. Jake Clifford. Don't forget, yes, I'll pat myself on the back. There it is. I have been pushing and pushing and pushing for Toddy Payton to leave Jake Clifford alone. Let him form that chemistry that Havs need with Tommy Dearden. It's come to that. These guys are playing. They're perfect foil for one another. And because of that, he has been rewarded. He is re-signed with the Cows until the end of 2028. Congratulations to Jake Clifford. I felt for this guy because every place he went to, it just felt like, yeah, you're just not, almost like he wasn't the prettiest car on the lot. And they, that I think I want candy apple red. Sorry, Jake. And it was like that. And Newcastle didn't end well for him. He just could never get that. And let's be honest, there's plenty of times that he just was getting jerked around in North Queensland too. But he's in there. I think finally we can stop talking about Jackson Purdue coming into the halves. I think we know he's going back to the fullback position. So this is a spine that could be something fun here in the near future going forward, even though I'm a big Drinkwater fan and I don't know about any of that. But still, congratulations, Jake Clifford, getting that contract extension with the Cows. Jermaine Bulla, let's talk positive for the Tigers. Finally a win for the West Tigers. Finally a win. Guys not leaving, but guys staying. And we got to double down on that because Bulla, 4-year extension, I think you're talking about $1 million a season. That's great, but that's until the end of 2030. And then you got the May brothers, who went to social media and made it sound like they were going to leave the Tigers, but instead they have re-signed through 2030 as well. So congratulations to Bulla, congratulations to Talon and Terrell May, and congratulations to the West Tigers because you've needed news like this. And that is positive news to go on top of players always seeming like they needed to leave the club for brighter pastures, for beautiful landscapes that are someplace else besides with the Tigers. Congratulations. Guys are re-signing. The future is bright for the West Tigers. Now, as we go into our picks for round 10, we start off Thursday with a game that is huge. Again, right, there I am again. Another huge game in the NRL. Another huge game. Bulldogs versus the Dolphins up at Suncorp. Good news for the Bulldogs. Everybody made the flight, so that's good. No explosive diarrhea, allegedly. Everybody is in Brisbane and everybody got on the plane together. Harmony with the Dogs. Unfortunately, not in the pick because I'm taking the Finns. I'm taking the Dolphins to get another big victory and to get on a roll. A lot of people picked this team to be in the top 8, Shedheads. So I got the Dolphins beating the Bulldogs to kick off round 10. Friday, Titans versus the Chooks. The Cody Ramsey story continues. It's in Gosford. Hopefully, Dom, you get to take the family out to a game because I'd be going, but that's something else. I got the Chooks. I know the Titans they just keep getting right up to the front of the door, but then it just won't open. And this one's not opening either again. I got the Chookies getting a big victory up in Gosford to start off Friday night footy. Friday night footy. Then we've got the Eels and the Cows. To me, too big of a task for Parramatta to go up to Townsville. It's going to be a night of celebration with Jason Taumololo. And I think the Cows continue and they make it 7 of 8 and get a big victory over the Parramatta Eels. Kicking off Super Saturday, you got the Knights versus the Dragons in Wollongong. I'm going with the Knights. I think this team, I've said this time and time again, they have a chance for a special season. That's all I need to say. And no matter, you got the man himself, the Gutherino. Clint Gutherson's back in the one for the Dragons. Don't think it's going to be enough. I've got the Knights making a statement game personally myself. I think they handle the Dragons and they handle them easily. Maybe the match of the round, Sharks versus the Rabbitohs. You got the Sharkies after putting up a 50 spot, and you've got the Rabbitohs who are going to be out for blood after not being able to get over the top of the Knights. I think this sets up for some just stellar footy. We're going to see it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hard hitting. I can't wait to see what Latrell does. It's going to be just good. But this was a tough one for me to pick. I'm going with the Bunnies. I think the Bunnies at home, I think they find a way to win. It's going to be a tight one, but I've got South Sydney coming over the top of the Sharks. And finally, to close out Super Saturday, we've got the Broncos, a healthy Broncos side, besides Payne Haas, against the Foz family coming in. Or maybe I should say it like this, the Foz family coming in. It's at Fortress Brookvale. Some of you is Four Pines. It's always going to be Fortress Brookvale for me. And I've got the Seagulls winning this. I've got Foz family. the Foz family. I've got them coming out on top of this. This is going to be a marquee victory. This is going to be big news. I've got Manly beating the Broncos at home. Sunday, we got 2 crackers too. Tigers versus the Storm down in Melbourne. I'm going with the Storm, getting out from under it. They finally snap the hoodoo, and they don't make it 8 in a row. They break that losing streak, start riding the ship a little bit, trying to help Cameron Munster get into form before Origin camp. I've got the Storm beating the Tigers. And finally, the last game of the round, it's going to be a good one too. Panthers versus the Raiders. You know me. It's all about the revenge tour. I think it's going to be a close one, but I've got the Penrith Panthers beating the Canberra Raiders on the road. So let's go over these picks again. We've got the Dolphins, the Chooks, the Cows, the Bunnies, the Knights, the Sea Eagles, the Storm, and the Panthers are our picks to keep this rolling on a river down the track. And finally, my gun of the round, Shedheads, we're going with Greg Marju. 3 tries, 193 running meters, 3 line breaks, 1 line break assist, 4 tackle breaks. The guy was a force of nature. He wasn't Latrell, but he was a force of nature for the Knights in that huge victory over South Sydney, which to me is a time capsule match. And that's it, Shedheads. Another mission completed with your Shedadamus. We go into round 10. We got to get through this before we can start the party, before we can get the a couple of 4Xs up at the Caxton for Magic round 11. But hey, baby steps. Let's go through round 10. Shedheads, be safe this weekend. Take care of one another. Or don't get caught. That's me. That's how I live it. But until next week, this is Corey Jackson. You've been listening Outside the Sheds. Until next week, see ya.
And that was another fantastic episode of Outside the Sheds with Corey Jackson, talking all things NRL and all things sports. So please remember to smash the subscribe button and share this with your family and friends and show them what Australian sport is all about.